Welcome to The Professor is Live. I'm Mark Salisbury, and that's our producer, Rico Smart, right next to me on your screen. As most of you know, this is our live rehearsal that will ultimately become a podcast. So let's start with something that feels, well, a little backwards. We live in a moment when explanations, well, they're everywhere. AI can walk you through a concept step by step. It can generate tutorials, summaries, worked examples, and walkthroughs in seconds. It can explain the same idea 5 different ways until one of them finally clicks for you. And yet, a lot of people feel more confused, not more confident, more overwhelmed, not more capable.
In 200 feet, turn left, recalculating. Make a U-turn when possible.
Yeah, sure.
You have arrived at your destination.
Yep. And so that's what happens when you have directions, but no judgment.
It's happened to me.
So here's the question I want us to wrestle with today. If we've never had better explanations, why does it feel harder to actually learn?
So maybe we shouldn't think of AI as a teacher, but rather as a guidance or GPS system of sorts.
Yeah, so let's give that a thought here. Let's think of AI as a GPS. You know, when we think about it, it's incredibly good at giving directions, constantly recalculating, always ready with a faster route. But there's one thing it never asks you: where are you actually trying to go? All right. So I sense a transition here. Well, I think, Rico, that was the wrong transition. How about this one?
Welcome to The Professor is Live, a live thinking show for people navigating work, learning, and leadership in the age of AI. We start live on LinkedIn, share the recording on YouTube, and release each episode as a podcast wherever you listen. In 25 minutes, Mark Salisbury explores why human judgment still matters when intelligent machines can explain, recommend, and optimize almost everything. Through short insights, live interaction, and light humor with producer Rico Smart, the show helps you slow down, ask better questions, and make wiser decisions alongside AI. The Professor is Live is for professionals, educators, and leaders who want more than answers. They want clarity and direction.
Well, you know, when I actually listen to our intro, it's actually pretty good. So, anyway, getting back to today's topic, I started noticing this years ago, long before today's generative AI tools. But now it's actually, for myself, impossible to ignore. You know, I used to watch students, professionals, even very experienced people follow AI generated steps perfectly. The output looked polished, the process looked efficient, but when I asked just a simple question, why did you do it this way? Their answers often just fell apart. Not because they were careless, but because they never really chose a destination. They just followed directions. And then it hit me. People weren't struggling because they lacked explanations. They were struggling because explanations arrived before meaning was formed. It was like running or turning on a GPS the moment you get in a car before you've decided where you're going to go or why the trip matters. You're moving, but you're not oriented.
Kind of like the old joke, we're lost, but we're also making good time.
Exactly. So let's try to unpack what's really going on. When we look at AI, it's just excellent at explanation. AI is phenomenal at explaining things. There's clear steps, instant answers, multiple formats, endless patience.
But this GPS, it never stops talking.
Exactly. And that's really not a flaw, it's a strength, but explanation for us as human beings alone is not learning. So, for learning, we realize that it requires some kind of what we call productive struggle. Real learning involves friction. That's a process where we construct knowledge and understanding. It requires and involves uncertainty, false starts, and moments of, wait, that doesn't make sense. These moments are not bugs, they're elements of learning. That's how we build mental models. If GPS reroutes every time you hesitate, you never really learn the city, do you? You just arrive somewhere.
So you don't know why you made the trip and how you got there.
Exactly. And you haven't learned what you need to judge the value of the trip. So that takes us to this place. We start to realize that explanation is not understanding. Understanding requires more than these steps. It requires integrating ideas, applying them in context, reflecting on mistakes.
So great directions, but no idea where I actually am.
You're right. You can execute without understanding, but you can't adapt without it. So the missing piece, right? That is metacognition. And this is where it comes in. It's really that big, long, complicated word that really helps us think about our own thinking. Metacognition is knowing what you understand, what you don't, when you're confused, and when it's time to slow down. And here's today's key insight. Sometimes the smartest move is to turn the GPS off on purpose.
So not because it's wrong, but because we need to learn the path to the solution.
Exactly. I don't know about you, but when I look at my GPS directions, I'm doing it to see if I'm actually going in the right direction, the direction I've chosen, right? For example, I want to make sure that I'm going to Dallas, Oregon instead of Dallas, Texas. Then I look at the recommended route to make sure it makes sense.
So like making sure your car isn't routed through a park or a horse trail.
Exactly. You know, there's a lot of implications to this for learning and for leadership. And so this takes us beyond classrooms. Leaders now have a new responsibility. They must design environments, right, for their people where AI supports work. Humans struggle productively and judgment is developed, not bypassed. If learning environments remove all friction, they also remove all growth.
So the old cliche is true. No pain, no gain.
That's correct. But it must be the right kind of pain. The friction that builds metacognitive knowledge for humans to build better judgment. So if you don't know what we're talking about, view or listen to episode 16, and it lays out the different kinds of knowledge and what people should be learning in the era of AI. Well, let's pause for a minute here, Rico, and let's take a look and see if we have anything in the old chat box here that they want to talk about. And if you don't have your own question, think about this. When have you intentionally not used AI so that you could think something through? Let's take a look. I know there's going to be so many of them here. It's going to be a little bit tough to read them all, but I'm bringing them up and it looks like, oh my God, this is terrible. Rico, apparently our whole audience has died. I don't see any comments here.
I think the switchboards might be malfunctioning. I think they're burning up.
I would think so. That we're probably just talking to ourselves. I think the whole internet's gone down here. But we can move forward. We can move past failure, can't we, Rico?
Uh, Perhaps you have a quote for us today.
Yes. I do have a quote. And I want to use a quote from the educational philosopher John Dewey, who said, "Education is not preparation for life, education is life itself." So learning was never really about speed, right? That's the thing that we remember. It was about orientation.
Good quote. So what's today's takeaway then?
I was waiting for that. And so here's today's takeaway. AI is an extraordinary GPS. It can guide us efficiently. It can help us avoid obvious mistakes. It can get us where we're going faster than ever. But humans still have to decide where they're going, why it matters, and when it's worth taking a different way. So that takes us to the end of this program. So next time on The Professor is Live, we'll explore why asking better questions actually matters more than getting better answers. Thanks for thinking with us today. And go to www.theprofessorislive.com to find out more. But before you fade away, I just wanted to let folks know that tomorrow I'm going to be headed to Oxford in the United Kingdom to give a keynote at the 7th European Advanced Educational Technology Conference.
Whoa there, big fella. Oxford, like London, the place all the old buildings and smart people?
That's it, exactly. I know you're surprised that I'd be there. But the keynote is called From Learning with AI to Learning to Judge: Why Educational Technology Must Shift Up the Cognitive Ladder.
So this is really about our new theory that AI is basically the world's smartest intern.
Right. The intern who can explain everything. I'm pretty sure you got it in here.
But I think, but humans still have to decide what actually means. I mean, the explanation must be understood.
Exactly. And that's the job we still have to learn how to do. See you next time on The Professor is Live. Oh, and I closed down this closing thing here. What do you know about that? Boy, this the help we have around here. My goodness.
You can find previous episodes of The Professor is Live in both video and podcast form at theprofessorislive.com. Full video episodes are available on The Professor is Live YouTube channel, and the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other major platforms. If these conversations help you slow down, think more clearly, and navigate the age of intelligent machines with better judgment, we invite you to keep thinking with us. You will find more ways to engage at theprofessorislive.com. Because in an age of intelligent machines, human judgment still